How's it going, everyone? Ponyo here. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of After Dinner Mints. Before we begin, I highly encourage everyone watching to join us in the Art Blocks Discord, which is where our community lives. People will be chatting about generative art, people being interested about the upcoming projects, everyone. So feel free to check out our description of this YouTube, where you can get a link to the Art Blocks Discord. For anyone that's watching live right now, jump into the Art Blocks Mints channel. That's where everyone's gonna kind of have a discussion about what's going on this evening. And make sure you like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode of our weekly show. And now I want to introduce our guests for this evening. We have Art Blocks founder and generative artist, Snowfro.
Hey, everybody.
We have founder of OnCyber, which is a platform that gives collectors 3D and VR experiences to showcase your NFTs. We have Rayan.
Hi, good to be here.
And then we have generative artist Mitchell F. Chan.
Hey, everyone. It's a pleasure.
Excellent. Well, thank you all for being here this evening. I want to get straight into it. So we have Rayan from OnCyber. Thank you so much for being here. How are you doing?
Very good, thanks.
Excellent. So when we spoke the other day, you mentioned that you have been into both tech and art for a long time. Can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Casablanca, Morocco. My father here's full-time occupation is to manage this art foundation. It used to be a publishing house that was created in 1948 called Dar Kitab, and he turned the headquarters of that place into an art foundation about 15. I mean, when I was 11, 12, 15 years ago, and the custom here is to help your father whatever he's doing, and so I was involved early on in the art space and trying to. I've always been drawn to help organize shows and set the right moods for people to enjoy art, and then at the same time I was very much into programming from early on. It was like my life was really between school and then programming and art, I guess. But it wasn't until NFTs that I really found this inner peace with art. It was very hard for me to like as a pragmatic person to enjoy art, and I guess like this coming into NFTs really made me reconciliate myself with my relationship with art. So it's been quite awesome on that point.
That's awesome. Fantastic. So how did you learn about NFTs and the crypto space?
Well, I've been into crypto for I when I was 18, I moved to San Francisco and I used to go to Bitcoin meetups every week. So I was into crypto for a long time, and then about 10 years ago, I got into the NFT space. So in December 2020, like this space feels so like every single day in this space feels like a year. So it feels like it's been 20 years ago. It's I learned just by seeing like beautiful art that was initially posted as like minted on the blockchain, and then NFTs came from that. Just I started with the art. I found the art beautiful and decided to dive in, and since then it's been hard to get out.
Very nice. So how did you find out about art blocks?
It's so I when I started working on cyber in December, I directly came in head first and worked every single day for a lot of time. So from time to time, I would have like the opportunity to encounter art, and art blocks had been I had seen like art blocks from time to time. I had seen at the time I think it was so Squiggles, of course, and then I had seen Ringers by Dimitri. But at some point, I was just chilling in my Discord. It really feels like a physical experience, by the way. I was in my Discord, and then someone from the community, I don't remember who exactly, came to catch me and was like, oh my God, Snowfro, the founder of Art Blocks, is using your platform and he's waiting for you in the Discord. You need to come. And so I come to the Discord as if it was a physical experience, really. And then from that moment, I got more interested in it. We did a community show with some people in that gallery's channel on our blogs a few months ago. Uh, I was completely mind blown by what people were putting there, and I saw that in my wallet I didn't have any of that of this beautiful generative art, and it just like got me more into it. And since then I've been collecting a little from like the time I have, but it's yeah, this is what brought me to art blocks.
So what was the first project then that you minted from, or I guess that you collected from art blocks?
That I collected from art blocks was Paper Armada.
Okay.
Yeah, so like we also did another show where Snowfro put like three of his Paper Armadas that were like beautiful, like many motives. Like I think it was the ones with like three, like the with the most like heads possible on the canvas.
They were swarms.
Swarm.
Three
Yeah.
swarms,
yeah,
three
so
different palettes. Yeah.
Oh wow.
and like I saw this and I was like, oh my god, this is so beautiful, and the arrangement had the way it was. So like at that moment I thought, well, I mean, I'm gonna go and collect the same thing.
That was
Just to be able to have the same arrangement. It wasn't that easy. So
that
I
was
just smaller.
a pride and joy. Those three swarms in your gallery, that was amazing, man.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
everything
it was,
else in that gallery was incredible too. But those three together in the back was
that
very
room
special.
though, it was very very special.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then since then I minted a few projects. I really like transitions. Um, so even the
Yeah.
format of how it was dropped, and like I do 3JS. So I mean, like what the whole platform is on 3JS, so I have to like um, and also like the base. I mean, I was into 3D and WebGL for a long time, like, and the first um, project I made, I guess, was some kind of it's not generative art, but it was some kind of art on 3JS. So I have like a little thing for that. And I think that project is incredible. Like
Yeah.
seeing art like this in 3D, I saw them as Damien Hirst dots, but in 3JS. So it was interesting to see, and I minted a few of these.
Very cool. Well, can you tell us, Cyber is obviously the big thing that you created. I think it's such a cool platform. Can you tell us a little bit about Cyber and then like your initial vision for this platform?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, the idea was that there were going to be of course there were a lot of people in the NFT space, and there were going to be a lot of newcomers in the space. And when we started, we realized that I saw it as I saw what NFTs could do to the world of art, and how it was kind of changing the idea I had of art and my relationship, like how I saw the relationship of creatives and their collectors, and how um, it was making everything a bit less snobby and elitist. So there was a lack of a way to storytell for artists and collectors. It was when I came into NFTs and I saw what was there, it was a lot of marketplaces, and at the time, I was calling those supermarkets, where you had products next to each other that had not much to do with each other, and it was hard for an artist, I guess, or a collector to really tell a story from the art they had that was um, immersive, interactive. Is my my video working?
I think because the bandwidth, the connection might not be 100%, but it's a generated piece of art that we're working with right here. So
Nice.
we're
Okay.
rolling with
I'm
it.
happy to be making one at least. Well, I mean, and so we went with the idea that we would create the easiest way for anyone to show art in a more immersive, interactive way. And the whole premise was that we wanted to have the less amount of clicks between someone connecting their wallet and showing their art, and at the same time being a platform that how we can make this the authenticity and ownership advance. So there was and there will never be any way for people to show art within a cyber experience. If it's not an NFT they own or created. That's something we've been on top of from the very start. It could have made UX easier if we would just had people paste their wallet addresses, and then everything is out there, but it would be too easy to cheat, and
Yeah.
we really don't want that.
Well, how long did it take you? Because obviously, I mean, you've created, obviously, you've updated the platform so many times, since I've seen it, and just in the past few months. Like, how long did it take you from the initial idea until you launched the platform?
Well, first off, I have to say I have an incredible team with me. Some guys that I mean, I the whole platform comes from an innovation lab I started in Casablanca called Supercharge, and the idea was that I came back and hired a few very interesting um, people to work on projects that had no product market fit possible and that were super risky and that probably would never work. And so we worked on a few companies or projects like these that would never work. And then we decided for the art foundation to build a SaaS for my father to be able to easily create shows and update the art on the walls and invite people over. And so I guess like the UX came from the fact that um, people who weren't the most tech like advanced people would be able to use it. So last year we spent about 6 months on the initial tech, although like we knew we would never get this out to the public or anything. It was just for the kicks of it. We just wanted to build something cool in 3JS, and we went ahead with that. And then what's very interesting is that at the moment we decided to launch, like we like got it out, I knew that I would just give it to my father to use a bit, and then I wouldn't go ahead with that and just move on to something else that as crazy as like jumping into that. But at that moment, I learned about NFTs. I let the concept sink in, and I didn't want to like just jump onto a project that didn't have any meaning for me anymore. Just like we were with the innovation lab, we were working on a lot of projects that were very cool, but at the same time, whenever we got them out, we would just like forget about them. And I wanted to be working on something that was really really meaningful. I only work with meaning and passion.
Yeah.
Otherwise, nothing gets out of me.
No, I love it.
And
Yeah, it shows in the platform, how much, passion and work you put into it. Do you mind
thanks.
actually
Yeah,
taking us? Do you mind taking us actually through some of your some of your galleries that you create, or I guess that maybe that you've seen and you really enjoy? Looks like you have the
no,
Art
yeah,
Block
for sure.
Community
I
Gallery.
mean, like, there's a few of those are like one of them you saw it last week from Von. I think
Von
his
Misses, yeah.
collection is
Von
something
Mises.
else. And by the way, I it was not supposed to act that way. Like that movement was not supposed to be so slow, but I guess it worked for the viewing
Yeah.
purposes. So.
Yeah, we were chill. Everyone was having a good time. So yeah, it worked out all right.
Okay, so I'll share my screen from the other.
Yep. Yeah, we have it pulled up
So
right now.
this is the Art Blocks community show I was talking about, which was the first the first show we did within that Discord channel. Um, it has a few beautiful ringers, spirals, like a radix. It has a few squiggles somewhere over here. Yeah, this is Snowfro's corner. But like one person, I don't know who. Yeah, someone just came in Snowfro's corner. But yeah. Then we have a few fidenzas there by D. Buckman as well. Like I want to thank D. Buckman for like being such help in terms of feedback all the time and like asking me things. We only function with feedback. Like the product as it is now has nothing to do with what it was when we started, and it's been growing every single week. And that's only thanks to users like him. It's just been very, very good and easy to work with people that give us such feedback. So this is another person I really admire and
Oh wow,
really
yeah,
like.
AC.
Yeah, his collection as well is well. I mean, we can go through it. It's
So can you actually tell us like what inspired this vibe and the look? Is this based off of maybe a gallery or something else that you saw, or how did you create this this template for a gallery space?
Well, I mean, like we don't create templates ourselves. Our artists make them, and this is by Wolfgang, he's the most talented 3D modeler I've ever seen work ever. I the way I found him as well, he was not into crypto at all. He didn't know what any of this was meant, and I found him on 3D modeling websites. I found just like the most interesting guy and the most interesting models I could find. Told him that he could be really rich in crypto and he should come in, and it's really cool to be in the NFT space and it's changing the world, and convinced him to come in, and he's been making a few models and now is a Ethereum maximalist. So it's
That's
been quite
awesome.
interesting to see the transition from not really not caring to yeah. So yeah, the whole point of this space is to let users like slowly realize where they are and what art they're in. So we start in like a very small dark room,
Hmm.
and there's a surprise for the people who have. So by the way, this room is an NFT as well. So what we do is that we
Oh
tokenize,
wow.
we let artists tokenize those 3D destinations that they can sell to people, so that people could put their art in them and showcase art. Actually, our main collection is also it's very much inspired by art blocks. Art blocks being my favorite project probably ever, and like in terms of company and how it's aligned with like creating value for everyone. It's definitely an example. So we call it curated as well, this
Nice.
collection. And yeah, so like Wolfgang really wanted to give like try to play with space to give the impression for of people to like of slowly getting into different vibes while being aware of what's at the end of the tunnel. So here we see that Fidenza by Tyler Hubbs at the end of the tunnel, but we
Yeah.
don't really know. Like you can only wonder what's inside of that room until you get in and you see AC's incredible collection with archetypes
So good.
and
All the
yeah.
ringers and
And I mean, look at these like
the amount of Fidenza is also is like insane. Or that now that you think about it, after so many months, wow. And that's with
yeah.
the micro.
And I mean, like this, it looks good on a computer. Okay, it's nice, but we launched VR this week. Like I spent a few weeks on it, like until last weekend, and AC's gallery, Vaughn's gallery in Genesis, this 6529's gallery here in Temple as well. I mean, with the VR headset, just so special. Like I showed this to my father, who's been in art for 30 years, and like he was screaming in the house and saying
Oh
that this is
wow.
the most interesting artistic experience he's ever seen. He like art blocks or not, like he doesn't know, maybe he doesn't get exactly what generative art and what minting like and like minting influences the piece of art you have and the relationship between that part of the technology, but visually he was mind blown. And then there's this one as well, not like there's one out of one Dimitri, and then the rest is the full created set.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Like these in VR look really good. um I was trying to get to some of those like neon colors, but I tried to make deals, it didn't happen. And
I
then
got a
I
720.
of course like me seeing this, of course I can't wait to have um interactive pieces playing.
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna bring that up later.
Yeah, like looking at this, it can only get me to speak about it. We did find a solution, but that wasn't good enough, and that was taking some quality off so that we could have um, like left GPU for running the rest. But I think we're onto a very good solution that was hard to get past, but um, like it would make it much better for sure.
That's awesome. So when does the timeline do you think for something like that, as far as like interactive NFTs, like the 720 minute that you're showing, or the watercolor dreams?
It's really hard to tell because again, we want like a solution we have, right? Like, but we won't push something that we're not fully into, and that we're not sure would like uh, not I wouldn't say break the art, but like showcase the art in like a bad light.
Hmm.
So I this week we're on like it's on the top of our list. So I'm really confident in our skills. Like The people I work with are very, very good. So I'm confident that maybe this week we find the perfect solution.
Cool.
We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I know everyone's going to be excited when that capability is unlocked. I'm looking forward to it, and I think it's true. You don't want to rush something like this and then put out a product where it doesn't work as well as it should. And yeah, I'm super excited to see that happen.
No, yeah, for sure. If anything, we are really cautious to stay true to what we want to do, and that's to showcase art in a better light, not a worse one. So if anything, like we'll never let like artworks get there with very bad quality or making the whole experience laggy or anything. And
Right.
it's tricky with interactive pieces because some of them take quite a lot of GPU, but I think we can do it.
Excellent. Well, what's been the most challenging part? You've obviously built this, from scratch. What's been the most challenging part of, building, Cyber?
I don't know if it's challenging or the things that give it the kicks, but having to respond to users so quick, because I mean, the whole space is advancing incredibly fast, right? And people are used to seeing new things every single day, and like this pops out here and this new thing pops out here. And we on our side as a team, we are like, I like the pressure, I love it, but we are have to comply with the standard that we have to innovate super quick. Sometimes it like for us, we are very okay with that, and we've been like launching at some point at the very beginning we were launching one major feature every single day.
Wow.
And now yeah it was like it was quite crazy because I mean I was programming and like we were 2 3 there was a lot to do, so obviously there were a lot of major features to launch, and I think a lot of people got used to that. Now it's getting a bit harder because we try not to accumulate tech debt, and like we try to make sure that the work we do today doesn't slow us for in the future. So it's a bit harder to push every day, but still, I think we still can go fast for the moment. At some point, we're gonna have to go a bit slower to be more careful. And I don't know what users are gonna think about that because they're getting used to a very dangerous drug.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what percentage of galleries would you say are gallery spaces that are owned or that have an Art Blocks mint essentially? Or I mean, a lot of them Art Blocks focused galleries, or would you say?
It's hard to say. What I can say though is that a lot of the destinations we've been selling as NFTs, especially from the curated ones, have been bought by Art Blocks collectors. And if you like, so we are working on tools that would allow you to just like filter the exhibits you want to see by collection or by contract name, I guess. That would be the easiest thing to do. And yeah, like I think Temple must have 10 very, very interesting Art Blocks collectors out of 33 owners. Genesis also has like the created destination we have also has like quite a significant number of Art Blocks collectors. So yeah, but then after it's hard to say.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, I just feel like every day there's somebody that creates another gallery or another cyber gallery. It's just really cool to see, and I'm just super excited to have you here. Obviously. But what obviously so VR that happened this week. That's a big, undertaking, I'm sure, and I think that's really cool that it's out there. What does it look like, as far as the roadmap? Where do you see Cyber 1 year from now?
Yeah. So VR, for example, we didn't really speak about it before it was launched. We try not to. We're really not in the business of trying to hype people up so that they use us and then like letting them wait and wait and wait. So in general, we don't really speak about like features that are coming. But here, I mean, we're in small committee, so I guess
Yeah.
I can go ahead and speak. I think that we have the opportunity to be like kind of like people have a very specific view of the metaverse and see it as something that doesn't have continuity with today's internet and I think that we are a nice transition and a nice bridge between the 2D world and the 3D world, and we try to be like that. We try to be not a break from before. So most like people will think that the metaverse is the complete break into Ready Player One, but I think it's going to be much more natural and much more fluid to move into that. And I think that um, I mean, the way that we are and the features that we have coming, which include well, portals between spaces where you would be able to like smoothly switch from one space to the other without having to like the page to reload. It's a very interesting technical challenge, and I like we've started solving it, and it's very cool. So like you'd be able to just walk into the next space directly. Then we have a multiplayer feature that would allow people to log in with avatars and look at each other. We'll still always have the single player mode as the default because I truly believe that enjoying art is much better done alone than in a group. Like at least just like viewing a show, no one would ever like reject the opportunity to go to the Louvre alone, right? So
Yeah.
I think we're still gonna prioritize that, but then have another tab that allows people to like just log in with an avatar and look at each other. Um, at the very beginning, we might restrict that to a few users, maybe 10, 15, 20, and then little by little grow from there. We're very much believers in like the iterative process rather than like just doing everything at once and doing everything well little by little and launching it. But yeah, like we're going to be looking more and more like the idea that people have of a metaverse without necessarily calling ourselves a metaverse because we're more of like we're a bridge, like we're a transition, and we don't want to be like too brusque with the transition. I think it's more careful that way.
Yeah. So I know you were just mentioning that, to transition from one gallery space to another, you were talking about how it'd be like a smooth transition. So would it ever be possible to create a mega gallery? So I'm talking about, connecting my gallery space with, let's just say D Bachman's because he's got a really cool, gallery space, or several other collectors, so that I can basically walk in my gallery space, walk through a door, and then go right into D Bachman's, and then another door to go to
Yeah,
AC. Is that going to be possible at some point?
that's exactly it. So basically, like we want to be a different take on this idea of a metaverse, and we started with the idea that we don't want to have any constraints related to the physical world inside of that idea of a metaverse. This idea of connecting spaces together, like you would choose your open world in the end. So if you choose who you connect to, and then D Bachman, who has a very cool space, decides to connect to another person, then those links create your own world. And I think that's much more of a world native to the internet. It's much more like a link, a network of interlinked galleries. So once you get into, for example, let's say I have my world, and then one person in my world decided to connect to you. Well, then people jump from my world to the next one, to yours and your group of people. And then maybe one link will make them jump again. And the fact that they can do it smoothly will definitely put that more accent on the fact that it's a different take on like an open world slash like universe where there's no time or space really. Because I
Yeah.
mean, there is like it's not native to the internet. So yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. So all of the galleries I've seen have been free to use and view, but will there eventually be a time when, someone creates a premium gallery space that,
Mhm.
will require someone to connect their wallet, maybe pay like a fee in order to see their gallery space?
So it's not how we're approaching it. The way we do it is that instead of like commodifying lands, as you'll see on many platforms, like they'll sell lands and like some certain dimension of lands, we commodify design and creativity. So we allow any 3D artist. Right now, we've been inviting artists into the creative collection, but we like from next week or within 2 weeks, we have another collection like popping out that's going to allow anyone, whether a big collector or an artist or anyone who has certain 3D modeling skills, to submit a destination that is directly tokenized. So it is directly an NFT. Well, it's a 1155, so a semi-fungible token. and that people can collect, and once they collect it, they can use it. So the two spaces I showed you here and the one from Von are tokenized spaces from the created collection, but we're going to see much more diversity in spaces. I know like someone is working on a UFC ring where NFTs would fight, and then we have another person working on a fridge, like a refrigerator room, where basically you'd put the art as magnets on the refrigerators.
That's cool.
So like I think with this, with the fact that we are going to allow anyone to submit models, we're going to see things that we could have never imagined. The whole idea is that our software plugs it, like works really well with any 3D modeling software, whether that be 3ds like Cinema 4D or 3ds Max or Blender. Like if you have a certain plugin and name meshes a certain way, it works directly as an exhibition space. So
Cool.
hopefully the ecosystem is big enough so that we see quite crazy things.
All right, well, I got a crazy idea. What about a project that you were to launch on Artblocks one day where it's a generative gallery space so people can mint like their own gallery space one day? I think that would be really cool.
There is nothing I would love more.
All
And
right,
I
well,
think
maybe we can make that happen one day.
I mean, it's definitely possible. All we have to do is play around with the text. Maybe we can have like one space that has a certain like modeling, and then play around with the textures. Because we've been like tokenizing skins as well. Those should be available next week. So spaces that are free as well will be able to be not upgraded, but just changed visually through skins. And yeah, it's definitely possible.
Nice, awesome. Well, I got one more question. When will avatar? I know you mentioned you kind of discussed avatars for a split second.
Mhm.
You know, when will avatars be allowed into the cyber galleries, and will you possibly integrate other developer avatars? You know, something like Meebits or maybe even like Crypto Venetians into the space.
I'm confident we will. I don't have a perfect timeline for this. Again, it's just we work as fast as possible. Like if I mean,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, it's not too far. It's not too far. I'm not gonna give a perfect timeline, but it's not too far at all. And yes, of course, like we would definitely be very happy if people who hold 3D avatars are able to use those as their avatar on Cyber. So I think we're gonna make it happen.
Awesome. Cool. Well, we look
Yeah.
forward to it. Yeah, that's all I got. I just really appreciate you spending time here, Ryan. Do you have any, social media plugs, or do you want to let the community know about your website for OnCyber?
Yeah, I do, but in general, oncyber.io or oncyber_io on Twitter. We post like at some point you were a bit late to the party. We were posting features every single day, but now you can just like tune in to be aware of what's new and what's coming.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much again, Ryan, for being here. We appreciate you spending time talking about the gallery space and the future for cyber.
For sure, my pleasure.
All right. Well, up next we have Mitchell F. Chan. How are you doing? Oh, you're on mute still.
Yeah,
There
go
you go.
figure, huh? I'm great, thank you. Besides
Excellent. Thank you so much for being here. Well, so you had a factory drop the other day. I want to get into that just a little bit later on. I want to get a little bit of background information about you. Can you tell us how you got into generative art?
Sure. So I got into generative art. I've been an artist for a long time, since about 2006. And at some point, I realized that if you were going to make artwork that is about the world around you, it probably makes sense to employ media that are ubiquitous to the world around you. That means making art that uses technology. So I started learning how to do that. I went from being a very mediocre painter to a very mediocre technologist, and that was a fun step to make, right? And so now all of a sudden you have this medium that you feel like by using the material of the world around you, you can tell better stories about the world around you. And then it becomes this thing of, well, what do you want to make art about? And I think that when we look at the world around us, what we see that is often invisible, but we live in a world of systems, right? And these can be economic systems, or they can be social systems, or biological systems. And so my work quickly became about creating systems through technology, right? And that was a way of highlighting the systems that exist in the world around us. And so that, I mean, is basically generative art, right? Not all of my art was, strictly generative, but it all had that kind of ethos, right? And I think that that's why generative art is really appealing to so many people right now, because I think that on some level, we all recognize that we are, outputs of systems, of biological systems and of social systems or whatever. When we look at a generative artwork, it's amazing to think that it's so funny, right? Because it's made on computers. It's surprising there'd be any degree of empathy or way to relate to that. But we all understand that we're a really weird pseudo random output of a bunch of systems that we don't understand, right? Like that's what it is. So that's, I mean, it's a way of actually walking through, the world, however you want to look at it.
Very cool. So are there any artists, generator or not, that you look up to and have influenced your work throughout your career?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think early on in my career, when I started to do a lot of, when I was starting to use technology, I'd be really influenced by the Canadian artists, Janet Cardiff and George Miller. They had a big influence on me, and I was fortunate enough to work with them on a project one time. They were at like a special prize winners at the like Venice Biennale for like representing Canada at the time. And so a lot of the, art and technology people like that, Namjoon Paik. And then as I started to get more into not just like using technology as a tool, I can make cool stuff, but really thinking about what it means and like what are the core values of there, I came to more conceptual artists. And so, Yves Klein is clearly like the biggest influence in my career right now, and like Saul LeWitt, who's very much a link between conceptualism and generative art. And so those are artists who had ideas about what this stuff means that were so interesting to me, and that for me, all those ideas get to be updated and re-explored through NFTs and like today's generative art, technologies like what we see on art blocks.
And how did you get into the NFT space? What was there something specific that caught your eye and you're like, all right, this is something that's going to be important?
How did I get into? I got into it by accident. I got into it when there weren't really any NFTs. I guess there was like Kevin McCoy's NFT, which I didn't know about at the time. So I got into crypto in 2017 when I was looking for a new art material, right? Like I said, I'm interested in making artworks that are systems and that use technology. And I just finished making a sculpture out of water vapor. It was a system of expelling water vapor into a gallery space, right? And I was like, well, okay, my next project has to be something that's even lighter, right? Even less material. And I was like, okay, there's this new thing I researched. There's this thing called Ethereum, and this is a financial system that anyone can program. That sounds like it's for me. That's a thing that I want to make an artwork on. I didn't know what it would be. All right. And I also didn't know that there had already been some people who were thinking about this, as an art medium. So I came to it, and I started, I'm reading two, like, I always have two browser tabs open, right? One is like learning Solidity and learning like what Ethereum is. And the other is like, I'm reading about like the history of conceptual art. And I'm like, who else, who would have loved this idea that we can just keep track of all these things and they'll be like real, but imaginary, because they're just transactions on a ledger. I started to find these links, and I made this project in 2017 that was like, it was a modified ERC 20 contract, and I changed it to have these like non-fungible tokens like CryptoPunks, right? I was working on this just as CryptoPunks came out. So I came out like whatever, like, I don't know, like a couple months after CryptoPunks or whatever. And it was like a, for all intents and purposes, like a, a non-fungible token that was a conceptual art project. And that was how I got into it. I got into it by kind of making it like kind of by accident. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then how did you learn about art blocks or meeting Snowfro?
So, So I basically like kind of made an NFT, right? And then my life did not change because nobody cared. All right. Nobody cared. It was awesome. All right. I went back to work at McDonald's. That was a fun thing to do. I always had this niggling feeling that was like a really, I'd like, nobody knows about it, but I actually think that's kind of the coolest thing I've done in my career. And anyway, it's like around, the end of 2020, this stuff starts kicking off again. And I was like, I was out, all right, because I was like, as part of my research, like I went full crypto degen in like 2017. I felt that was really important to like participate in and experience. But it was a lonely place in 2017. I didn't do a great job of finding community. And ultimately, all you could do is what you could look at you could look at a bunch of ICO altcoins and you could watch them go up and down. All right. And it wasn't very like emotionally fulfilling for me. I didn't like it. So my friend's telling me, he's like, dude, this thing like with art on the blockchain, it's like it's a thing again now. And I'm like, no, I'm out. That drained me, man. I forget about it. And he's like, I'm telling you something, this is pretty cool. So I come back, I'm checking it out, right? And I was really lucky that Snowfro was actually one of the first people that I met, and Artblocks was one of the first projects that I saw. And like my mind was blown. Like it was blown. Like just because I felt like I had an understanding of like what an NFT was about, in terms of like as a conceptual art project, right? And a lot of my writing, so back in 2017, like I wrote about this. Like I wrote this 33-page essay about like this is what
Oh wow.
I never used the word non-fungible tokens. That term didn't exist, but like this is what a non-fungible token means. These are like the conceptual implications of separating a token, like representing ownership of something, from the artwork, and it's liberating in these ways and it's dangerous in these other ways. And I was feeling pretty clever around that time, right? But then I learned about this art blocks thing. And it is this weird, like this weird hybrid of all the different ways that I could have imagined. Like it's this new thing that I couldn't have imagined was an application of technology. You have this system where the artwork and the token, the transaction hash, essentially like the receipt, all right, the purchase of the artwork, they're not two separate things that point to each other, right? They're this intertwined thing. There's a codependency, a symbiosis there. And I thought that was just the most interesting thing that I heard. I felt like I could write a master's thesis about it. So I was super interested, like super grateful to have learned about it. I had one great conversation with Snowfro. He told me like a little bit where he's coming from in terms of his appreciation of generative art and his background as a collector, and he was able to converse in a way that moved seamlessly between all these different ways of looking at art as a collector, as someone with a genuine interest, as someone who made it. And I was like, yeah, this is a world I want to live in. I like this. I'm in. I'm back. All right, you got me.
And here you are right
that
now.
was
I think that's fantastic. All right, so last week you had your factory project release, LeWitt generator. Congratulations, by the way, sold out. Amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
So you made an early version of the project back in February of this year when you first applied to Artblocks. Can you share us, some of the images of the early prototypes?
Yeah, sure. So this project's been a long way coming. So this was like this is where it started, actually, not even in February. This is kind of where it started. I brought it up right now. Maybe we can screen share that.
Yeah.
Um,
It's there right now.
And so my first idea when I saw art blocks, like I immediately applied, and there's a backlog even then. But I thought, well, I'd really like to bring a project that I did back in 2014 and adapt it to art blocks, right? So it was actually in 2014 I made this project, and it was called LeWitt Generator. Just one generator, right? And that was a crazy time to be making generative art in 2014, right? We're in we're still very much in the file sharing era. Information wants to be free. And that's a really utopian idea, unless you're an artist who makes information and you kind of need to sell it to make a living, right? So I made this exhibition where I made a processing script that would just spit out LeWitt drawings every minute. And the idea was, right, LeWitt was this revolutionary artist because he was one of the pioneers who said, the idea is the art, the set of instructions is the art, whatever comes out of it is just is what comes out of it. And he says, the thing that I'm selling you, Mr. MoMA, is this list of instructions, right? That's a revolutionary idea, because not only is he saying that the idea of an artwork is more valuable than its output, he's putting his money where his mouth is and literally just selling the piece of instructions. But this conceptualist dream is impossible in 2014 because information wants to be free and there's file sharing. So I'm like, it'd be an interesting thing to do to make an open source code that will just keep on spitting these things out. I'll make prints and I'll sign them, I'll put them on the wall, I'll sell them in the gallery. I'll flip how the commodity like and art relationship is supposed to be. But then I'm realizing that with NFTs and with art blocks, this thing gets reversed again. And we're back into the place where, you know, we can commodify an idea. This has a lot of implications, and many of them are really positive, like for artists. So I'm like, okay, I'll flip that back. And so hence, this was the beginning thing I made in 2014, and then I sort of like submitted it again in February. And then it's kind of, by the time my time came up, right, it's like June, July, and I'm like, well, I've seen so many projects come out on Artblock since then, and so many of them have like just pushed it really far aesthetically, and in terms of like coding chops. And I decided that I, you know, wanted to, I owed it to myself to try to update it and make something different and take full advantage of the platform. So we ended up with LeWitt generator, you know, which imagines these drawings still, you know, these sort of lines, these points that are connected by lines, but the instruction said it just had to be on a continuous surface of wall. So what if the wall actually was all distorted algorithmically? And that was how it came about. So that's how it evolved between February and July. Well, actually, since 2014 to February to July.
Very cool. Well, so I know we chatted the other day. So your first NFT, as you mentioned, was in 2017, pre-ERC 721.
Yeah.
And you said that mint overlapped with the ideas of your project, LeWitt Generator. Can you talk to us about this NFT and share it with the community?
Yeah, sure. Like this piece, like really, the history of LeWitt Generator, like from 2014, is about changing ideas of what it is we're putting on sale as artists, right? Are we putting our ideas on sale? Are we putting iterations of our idea on sale? And this keeps shifting. It's very exciting. But, you know, it was with, my first NFT, all right, Digital Zones of Immaterial Pictorial Sensibility, was also a project about what it is that we're selling whenever we sell really any artwork, and how blockchain would accelerate that or change that, or flip all of that upside down. Now, it is a direct, like, look, so this is what I do, right? I take ideas from art history, I look at them in today's technological climate, and I say, well, there's, you know, we learned something about the world back then. If we adapt it, what do we learn about the world today? And what do we learn about art, right? So this is a direct adaptation of an Yves Klein piece, where Yves Klein sold these these empty spaces that he, you know, would, in this spiritual way, imbue with the sensibility of a color that he produced, right? And when you bought one, you got a paper receipt that looks like this, all right? And so that was, I mean, in my mind, this is 1958. In my mind, he created what I would now call like the first non-fungible token, right? You get a token in exchange, and it points to this sensibility, and it's just an idea, right? All these artists who wanted to sell ideas, like, this is the time to re-explore their work, because that's what we can do with NFTs and blockchain. So this piece was very much about saying that, all right, this conceptual project from 1958, it is, for me, like, it is the template to, like, spiritually, conceptually, like, what we're putting on sale here with NFTs, for better and worse. It's the freedom to, it's the freedom to really put an idea out there for sale. And that's what it was. So this idea of what art commodifies and what the act of commodification does comes up not just in my digital work, but I have other gallery work that is very much about that.
Cool. And can you share with us some of your favorite mints from your project that released last week?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's always so exciting whenever they come out of the minter.
Yeah.
I have there's one way that I cheated from Solowit's instructions. Solowit's instructions always said to that while drawing number 118. Oh yeah, one thing I gotta say, this is so unbelievable lucky. the LeWitt piece that I'm referencing is he just numbered all of his wall drawings. These are all wall drawings, right? And there'd be wall drawing number 1, wall drawing number 2. So my LeWitt piece are LeWitt wall drawing number 118. I chose that originally in 2014 because it's very simple. It's one of the simplest ones. He says, on a continuous surface of wall, place 50 points at random, connect all points with straight lines, right? And then it just so happened that this was Art Blocks project number 118. And I thought that
Oh,
was so
wow.
cool.
That's super cool.
It totally lined up. But anyway, there's one way that I cheated, which is that I didn't always use 50 points. I thought it'd be fun if some of them were fewer points, and those were like the minimal attribute. And I love some of the ones that came out minimally. So I like immediately scooped this one up off secondary because it was super minimal. It has very few points and it doesn't even have a backdrop. So I really loved this one on a sort of like distorted wall. I really like that one. This was another like minimal one. And I also, this is a fun one. I named all of the color palettes after people who had really helped me or supported me or like inspired me in the space. So this one was named, this one's called Snow Day. And it's a
nice.
hybrid of snow, and the collector introduced me to him. And the green palette is based on Snow Zombie Punk.
Oh, that's awesome. That's super cool.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with this. This is the opposite one that came out like complex with
Wow.
a lot of lines. And I like it, you know, with a lot of lines, the line weights get thinner, and I think they can look really elegant. Another thing that I liked is that for the wall, it's just the substrate of the wall is implied by points, and so whenever they, you know, all these points end up doing that cool sort of like op art thing whenever they get laid out in these distorted patterns. So I really liked that one. Some of my other ones were ones where there's actually like less distortion, so you can kind of see the original idea. It's easier to see that it's just points connected by straight lines, and maybe they're a little bit jittery because they're on a bumpy wall, like this one and like this one. And this particular type of wall distortion, it was like I was definitely thinking about Matt Deslauriers's Subscapes when I did this, because that was for me such a beautiful mint. Matt Deslauriers was a guy I was excited to see him on Art Blocks because I was like familiar with his code before. Like I think I'd like used some of his code in teaching a class that I used to teach at OCAD University. So I like these ones that come out that where you can see more of the points connected by lines. I also really like some of them. There are different shapes in the backdrops, and where like the wall is kind of square and on an angle just askew to the diamond backdrop. I always think that looks really sharp. So those are some of my favorite mints.
Well, were there any features that, you know, maybe you were anticipating or hoping would pop up, but maybe it didn't show up during the minting process?
No, because I didn't do too many like extreme rarities. So everything that I like wanted to show up showed up. I think that like the rarest feature was this colorway, which I called the IKB colorway, as a sort of like homage to Yves Klein and my earlier project. And you know, I think about 10 of those came out, so I was pretty happy. I tried to like another artist I was really inspired by, like who, you know, also helped me realize like, whoa, I got to up my game and adapt my script, you know, was Tyler Hobbs, obviously, just like the rigor that he would go through in tweaking his algorithm to make sure that like, yeah, it's still random that comes out, but he has, you know, excellent control over what different types of experiences are going to come out. And I truly believe that like when it's just based on his writing, like, because I also appreciate
Yeah.
he described his process a lot, and like it really sounds like there were like every piece is a surprise, but overall like there were no surprises for Tyler Hobbs. Like he'd seen like tens of thousands of mints. He knew what was going to come out, right?
No,
So I wanted to have that kind of ethos too. I you know, look, man, I can't do it as well as Tyler, but you know, I did my best.
nah, you have a fantastic, beautiful project sold out. So congratulations on that. Do you have any other NFTs available on other platforms outside of Art Blocks that people can, you know, check out?
No, I don't. I'm really slow. I try to work really slowly and deliberately in this space, and I try to make sure that I'm doing things for the right reasons. I try not to make anything unless I can write a long essay about it too. Because I want to advance ideas in the space. And cross-pollinate people who are coming from different artistic backgrounds. I can say that the original Digital Zones project, there are still 20 tokens in that contract from 2017. So those are going to come out. Those are going to come out on August 30th, on the 4-year anniversary of the project. And
Oh,
that'll
wow.
be and then it'll be. I hope to continue contributing to the space a lot through like writing and trying to support other people who bring value to the space through curation and writing and do all that value added stuff. And I'll probably be pretty slow to develop my next project.
That's no problem at all. We appreciate you and furthering advancing the generative art space. Do you have any social media plugs that you want to kind of provide to the people in the community?
Yeah, I'm at Mitchell F. Chan. You can find me at Mitchell F. Chan on Twitter and Instagram. And you can go to my website, chan.gallery, to read some essays that I've written about my projects and hopefully more stuff about the space in general.
Excellent. Well, Mitchell, thank you so much for being here, just for talking to us about your project, talking to us about how you got into the space. And yeah, we love that you're here, and we appreciate you being on today.
Thanks so much. Appreciate all you guys so much doing so many things for the space and the community. Thank you. It truly is an honor.
Thanks a lot, Mitch. Appreciate that. All right. Well, up next, we have our weekly Love to See It highlights of the week, where we kind of highlight some positive things that have happened in the community. First one I have is from D. Bachman, wanted to highlight Freak Lion's Elemental listing, which ended earlier today. Money was raised as a tribute to their father. Proceeds after the OpenSea fees are going to the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's research. Even better is that Freak Lion's employer is matching the donation so that there is a 2x donation for a fantastic charity. So thank you so much, Steve Bachman, for highlighting Freak Lion's awesome work in providing money for a good cause. The second one we have is we had another accidental listing earlier this week where a community member named Buffering accidentally listed something for 1 ETH instead of 14 ETH for a watercolor Dreams Mint. The purchaser, Sai Lu, quickly responded after seeing the mistake and returned it back to the original owner for at cost. And even cooler is that the artist, Numbers in Motion, even offered to return the 5% royalty fee back to the collectors, but both parties decided that the artist should keep it. So I thought that was really cool. And yeah, that's all we got for Love to See It. Those are just some positive highlights from the week, things that we love seeing from the community. And, if anyone has any other things that they want to highlight, other good things that are happening in the community, feel free to drop me a DM. One other note I want to add before we do the Squiggle giveaway is there is an Art Blocks book club. So I'm just going to read a little tidbit about that. The Art Blocks Community Book Club is a weekly book club that meets for 30 minutes every Sunday following After Dinner Mints. So the goal of the club is to meet with other folks and learn more about the art world by reading community proposed books. The point of contact is Young Weekend, which is YUNGWKND on Twitter. You can also find them on Discord. I'm sure there'll be some posts after the After Dinner Mints today talking about this awesome, really cool book club. But their first book is they're going to be reading the $12 million Stuffed Shark. And so it looks like the first episode will be today, or not the first episode, but the first meeting will be today after we conclude tonight's After Dinner Mints. Well, with all that being said, we're going to go ahead and transition into our weekly Squiggle giveaway. We're going to use the same format as last week. I will post a link shortly that will lead you to 3 trivia questions. I think it's 3 or 4. It might be 4, but, so be it. All answers can be found on the community-driven ArtBlocks wiki page. So that website is artblocks.wiki. Just so you know, again, you will have to answer all 3 of these correctly in order to be selected in the possible drawing for a Squiggle. So basically, I'm going to drop the link in right now into the ArtBlocks Mints channel. I'll just post it in there a couple times so that. So you'll have 2 minutes. We'll need everyone to answer all 3 questions correctly. And for all those people, 4. Sorry, it looks like there's 4 questions. So you'll have to answer all 4 questions correctly. All of them can be found on the artblocks.wiki page. And for those who get all answers correct within 2 minutes, their names will be put into a number generator, and one person will be selected as the winner for a Squiggle. So I dropped the link a couple times. I know there's a little bit of a delay, so we'll leave you all to it for a couple minutes or for 2 minutes, and I'll let you know when. Well, we'll post inside the Art Blocks Mints channel when there's about 2 minutes starting now, and during those 2 minutes, I don't know if you have any news or information, Snowfro, that you want to share with the community. Well, maybe let's hold off because I'm sure everyone is focused on answering those questions. So how about we'll give it the 2 minutes. Luke's gonna give me some updates on the timer, but yeah, we'll have 4 questions. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and enter myself too. I didn't do it last week, so
Go
let's try this out.
Ponyo, go Ponyo, go.
I actually know the answers, so I do
This
have
one
an
I-
advantage.
I would have had to look up the answers. Last week, I feel like I just kind of knew them from historical reasons.
All right, excellent.
I wonder if one day we can have a trivia thing in real life where people just have to have all these memorized, like
We
Jeopardy.
could-
But
We can totally do that.
it's like you're gonna have to study that wiki for weeks.
Yeah, we made it a little bit more. The website is so great that you can easily navigate and find the answers pretty quickly. So, how much more time we got, Luke? We got 40 seconds left. I'll throw that in there. Can we close it up?
15.
10 seconds left. Okay. I'll just say 5 seconds. All right. Time is up. So we're going to go ahead and close up the entries. Looks like we had 75 people who correctly answered all 4 questions. And those 75 people, we will click the generate squiggle so we can generate a number, creating some suspense right now, just for a few seconds. All right, looks like entry number 50. So we're going to transition to. Oh, maybe I should move out of the way. Decipher, what was the number? 2021.
All right, congrats. Please
Congratulations.
DM me your address, your ETH address. We'll get a squiggle going.
All right. Well, while we wait for the wallet address from Decipher 2021, congratulations. And thank you all for participating in this fun weekly Squiggle giveaway. While we wait for that wallet address, Snowfro, do you have any news, any information you'd like to share with the community?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably like a whole hour's worth. So hopefully this is the last Chromie Squiggle minted on the old website. We've now opened up the website to all artists to take a look at and mods and tinker with. And so far the response has been pretty positive. I think extra positive is that we haven't had a lot of people saying that something doesn't work necessarily. On the new website, all of the previous artists are going to have to go back up and upload their features. It's a new method, but it's a lot more effective. You're going to be able to sort for features on our website, which is going to be amazing. That will also automatically translate to OpenSea. Artists will be able to test the Rinkeby mints. Well, it won't be Rinkeby, it'll be Ropsten with the features. That'll be pretty cool. So yeah, that's happening here pretty soon. Here, I got the address. And besides that, just another wonderful week at Art Blocks. I took a little bit of time away from the computer today, so I have a bunch of direct messages to answer. So if you message me today, I'll be back in touch with you here pretty soon.
Cool. All right, looks like we got a hyper bold incoming.
Is that what's coming? I don't know. That was the last.
That's what I say every week.
That was the last hyper, so I think it may not be a hyperbold. I'm guessing.
Perfect spectrum.
We haven't seen a hyper slinky since like the
like
5,000 or something like that. So we'll see. See what the blockchain gives us. Oh, the suspense. Oh, there he goes.
Boop. Ooh,
Whoa.
That's a nice one.
Yeah, that's interesting. Isn't that like a pendant? It's about to explode. Ethereum is about to explode. That's what that's saying. ETH will be 4,000 by tomorrow morning.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just kidding. Not financial advice. I have no idea.
Not financial advice for everyone listening.
Yeah. Wow. Congrats, man.
Congrats.
Well, I shouldn't assume, man. Congrats, Decipher.
Super cool.
Yeah.
And there it is right
Nice to see
there,
you guys.
animated.
Woo.
Cool. Excellent. Well, I want to thank all of our guests today that have been on and talking to us with the community. First off, I want to thank Snowfro, obviously, for creating this platform, being an artist, giving the Squiggle away once a week. I think it's just such a cool thing that brings the community together. I also want to thank Mitchell F. Chan for, their fantastic project last week and providing us information about how they got into generative art. And then I also want to thank Rayan from OnCyber, who's created such a really cool 3D VR experience to showcase your NFTs. And so many people in Art Blocks I know created gallery spaces, and we just love everything about that. So thank you so much to all of our guests. So for the next week's episode, it's actually going to be a pre-recorded episode. So we're going to pre-record it later on during the week, and it'll be aired next Sunday. Our guest will be PlayStation, who is actually releasing a factory project this upcoming Wednesday. And then also we have Null Flicker, who has helped with the Art Blocks Wikipedia page. So those will be our guests. We'll be pre-recording again this upcoming Wednesday, and it'll be aired next Sunday. We'll figure out a way as far as having another Squiggle giveaway. It won't be live. We won't have the Discord on the right side, but, we're still going to have some fun with it, and we will do another giveaway. But I just wanted to thank everyone in the community that's tuning in to, this Art Blocks After Dinner Mints. Thank you to Luke for helping produce the show. The community, which is on the right side of, maybe you can't see it. There you go. The right side of the screen. That's our Discord. That's where our community lives. If you are a collector, you're interested in generative art, or you're an artist and you're interested on being on the platform or just learning about generative art, just jump in one of the channels, introduce yourself, and we'd love to direct you in the right direction and get you the information that you need. And yeah, we want you to understand what we're doing at Art Blocks. And yeah, we thank everyone for tuning in. Make sure you comment, like, and subscribe to the Art Blocks YouTube channel. There's a link in the description at the bottom of this page. And as always, be kind to each other, be excellent to each other, and we will see everyone next week.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Mitch. Thanks, Ponyo.
Thanks all. Bye.